I've got something a little bit different to show you in today's video. It's a watch that is going to be appearing on Kickstarter very, very soon. It's being made by a high-end independent watch company, a micro brand basically. Selten, you may be familiar with Selten. I have reviewed a few Selten watches up to now, and this is their latest release. And it is a moon phase watch, and yeah, you guessed it, it's got a 29.5-day moon phase complication on the dial, and they've done it in quite a clever way. They've been able to use the Miyota 9015. They've added a module that then allows the watch to have this complication. That's pretty cool. And the moon phase complication has tantalum in it, which is, well, more rare than gold. I don't think it's as valuable as gold, but it's a very rare material. There have been other watch companies that have used this material in the past, and those watches tend to be very expensive. So, yeah, it's good to see them doing something a little bit different with that moon phase complication as well. And the module doesn't add too much thickness to the watch, so yeah, it doesn't sit too high on the wrist. Sometimes these adjusted or modified, that's the word I'm looking for, modified watches can be quite thick and chunky. Look, it's not the slimmest watch in the world, but it doesn't feel overly chunky and top heavy on the wrist. Now, given there's not a lot going on the dial, you wouldn't think there's too much to really talk about, but there is actually. Yeah, they've made quite an interesting watch. Like I said at the beginning, it's a high-end micro brand, so they do tend to go the extra mile when it comes to their watches. And this one's no different. They've sent me the version with a Musu black dial. Now, I've featured a watch in the past on my channel with a very similar, well, if not identical dial, let's be honest. There's nothing going on other than the moon phase complication. It is a dial painted with Musu black. If you're not familiar with that paint, I think it's a Japanese paint that absorbs 99.4%. Yep, I got that right. 99.4% of light. And actually, these dials are quite difficult to make. I bought some Musu black paint a little while ago, and it's actually very, well, I wouldn't say difficult to use, but it's difficult to maintain. It spoils very, very easily. And so the failure rate with these sorts of dials is really, really high. Now, this isn't the only dial option they're offering. They are offering some really quite interesting dial options with this watch on Kickstarter. I'll put a link to the Kickstarter campaign in my video description. It's not an affiliate link, it's just going to take you to the campaign, and you can have a look at the different dial options available. I'm not going to describe each one. I'm just going to let you head over there when you've finished watching this video to have a look for yourself, because I think they're well worth looking at. But when it comes to this particular dial, yeah, there's not really a lot to tell you about this dial other than, well, it's a Musu black dial and there's a hole in it so that you can see the moon phase complication. But there is some other really interesting stuff going on. For example, they've given you 2 lug holes in the lugs because they're supplying this watch not only on this all stainless steel, very nice bracelet, but they're going to be, well, they have partnered with Hasno Bounds, who make very, very nice leather straps, and so you'll get this watch if you back this campaign with the bracelet and a leather strap with curved spring bars at the end, and so the second holes in the lugs just ensure the leather strap fits right up to the case, and yeah, has a very nice fit. And there is a custom rotor on this watch, a very nice rotor. It's, well, it's a round rotor. You know, normally these rotors in automatic watches, they cover sort of half of the movement, and that's where the weight is. That's essentially what allows the rotor to wind up the movement, but they've actually produced a weighted rotor that is, well, it's a full disc. It's beautifully finished, really, really nice. Of course, they've given you a display case back so you can enjoy the finishing of that rotor. It is sapphire crystal, so you've got sapphire crystal front and back. Yay, sapphire sandwich. Well, it's what this watch deserves when I talk about the prices in a moment. I think you would expect 2 pieces of sapphire, and I think you'd also expect beautiful finishing. And this is a prototype. I keep reviewing prototypes these days. I keep saying, oh, I'm not going to review prototypes because they come with caveats and they're not always finished to the same standard as full production watches. Here I am reviewing yet another prototype, but I don't actually think there's any caveats that come with this watch, and the finishing is pretty good, so it looks basically as good as a full production watch, and the finishing is very, very nice. A mix of finishing on the case, and a mix of finishing with that bracelet as well. So yeah, it looks to be a beautifully finished watch, and with them being a sort of high-end micro brand, they seem to be going the extra mile when it comes to their finishing. They're even putting a sort of decorative finish on parts of the watch that you're just never going to see, which might be unnecessary, but I think it just goes to show that this is one of those brands that really does want to go the extra mile. Very nice hands. Yeah, I've said it already, there's not a huge amount to look at on the dial with this particular example, other than the moon phase complication. You've got some very nicely finished hands. Well, they're polished. There's 3 facets on each one. I think they suit the watch. I think the bracelet suits the watch as well. I'm not convinced about this watch on the leather strap. It's, like I've said already, not the thinnest watch. The leather strap isn't particularly big and chunky, so yeah, I would wear this watch on the bracelet. But it is nice that they're throwing in this extra strap, of course. 50 meters of water resistance. The caseback is screwed down with screws. The crown is a pull-push crown. Of course, there's 2 positions on the crown. The first position is how you would adjust the moon phase complication. Double-ended quick-release spring bars on the bracelet. Standard quick-release spring bars on the leather strap. A butterfly clasp. It's probably one of those watches that I don't mind this sort of clasp on the bracelet. It allows for nice continuation of the links all the way around your wrist. I haven't been supplied a half link. I'm trying to find out if half links or slightly smaller or larger links will be made available with this bracelet to allow for a more comfortable fit. The size of the links, well, they're not massive actually. The smaller the links, the more likely you are to get a better fit. These aren't 10mm links, so I think you shouldn't struggle necessarily to get an okay fit, but of course I always like to have the option of a finer adjustment link with bracelets like this. Right, that's all the technical stuff done, so let's talk about the price. If you want to pick this watch up as cheap as possible, you need to back the campaign in the first 48 hours. That's going to cost you $599 US. Then the price goes up in a couple of stages throughout the campaign. If you don't buy it during the campaign and you just want to wait for it to appear on their website, you're going to pay $900 US. Seems like a decent chunk of money, but then you have to remember this is a more high-end micro brand producing very few new designs, and when they do make a new design, they don't make too many watches. They're made in fairly limited production runs. They're also, premium in terms of how they're built. Also very, very original. They're not making homage watches, and so you are going to pay a little bit of a premium. $600 for this watch I think is a decent price. So if you are interested, I wouldn't hang around. Head over to the Kickstarter campaign, have a look at the other dials, and yeah, put your order in ASAP. Right, guys? As always, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think of the watch and the review in the comments section. Take care, guys.